So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and lay in some of these veins. So just like with everything, I would get clean water, and it can tint green, that's okay, but you don't want it tinted like brown or red or whatever. And like always, you kind of want to loosen up your paint a little bit. So the biggest mistake that I see people make is to veer off against your angle too sharp. So if you notice, like on this, we've got a lot of movement, but it's not going it never goes off that way. It always is pretty much parallel to that angle. Some of your veins can get a little wider. Use a lot of water to make that nice soft edge on some of them. The tonal variety is good. It will sort of create, like, this is called a high tone where it's more white, closer to white. This is called a low tone. We've got kind of a mid-tone here and lots of tones in between. You can follow, if you've got some really sharp areas, you can kind of follow what you've already established and cheat that way a little bit. So I'm just gonna come in and I often will just kind of jiggle my paintbrush as I go, just so that it's a little more interesting. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So on the brick and the wood, we wanted nice straight lines. On this one, you get to kind of loosen up a little bit. But you can see I stayed right with my angle. I never veered off too much. Also, it's going to be much more convincing if you continue your line all the way. The marble lines shouldn't really stop. If you think about how this was formed, it was heat and pressure. So there's different layers of minerals. I don't show a geologist this video. So heat and pressure, and you've got all these different layers that are compounding and creating your vein lines. So I'm going to take this water and I'm just going to kind of blend this edge sometimes. You don't always have to blend it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to create these shapes that are called lozenges. So you just see that is kind of repeated, that little shape all over. This one goes off. You can totally go off. And I've kind of already established that this breaks off, so I'm just going to keep going with that. And if I go too sharp, it totally throws it off and it's not going to look right. So, you know, I'm only going to get maybe a couple inches away from my original line. And then it'll start to sort of meander back. One thing that you'll notice on this board right here is that you've got like a cluster of veins, and then you've got sort of this negative space. And you can see we just kind of left that gross washy stuff, added a little bit of a white spatter to it. You don't have to do that. But then you get into more of a cluster again. So our tendency is to say, okay, we've got a vein section here. We're gonna put one right here. We're gonna put one right here. That's human nature, to make it very regular. So try to avoid that, that tendency. You could have one right here, and then you could have one right there, and that could be it, a little section of clusters. So it's okay to sort of build off of the other veins, but you don't want them to just stop. Then it looks kind of like snake tongues. It's kind of weird.